Chapter 8, Marketing Research from Customer Insights to Actions. This presentation is going to specifically focus on question data and question formats and newer data collection methods. So we'll first take a look at question formats. So the foundation of all research using questionnaires is developing precise questions that get clear, unambiguous answers very efficiently. And we're going to look at a bunch of different types of questions. I'm going to list them here and then I'll give you examples as we go through the presentation. So we're going to look at examples like open-ended questions, closed-end or fixed alternative questions, dichotomous questions, semantic differential questions, and Likert scale questions. Throughout the next portion of this presentation, I'll give you examples of each and provide an explanation. To discuss the varying question formats, we're going to look at a sample Wendy survey. So on the screen in front of you, figure 8.4a is a sample Wendy survey, and it focuses on the different types of questions on their survey, questions 1 through 5, which we will discuss next. Figure 8.4a question 1 comes directly from the sample Wendy survey and focuses on the first question, which is an open-ended question. An open-ended question is just as it sounds. It's a question that leaves the answer open for the respondent to answer however they so choose. It's kind of like answering a short answer or essay question on a test or a quiz. They give you the question, you give the answer. Open-ended questions allow the respondents to express opinions, ideas, or behaviors in their own words, which really captures the voice of the respondents because they can answer however they choose. Open-ended questions are useful in understanding consumer behavior, identifying product benefits, and developing advertising messages. And these are great because open-ended questions don't force the respondent to choose from alternatives that a marketing researcher has predetermined. The biggest challenge with open-ended questions is if you're administering 1,000 surveys, you could potentially get 1,000 different answers, which could make tallying and analysis difficult. Figure 8.4a focuses on question 3 from the sample Wendy survey and is a multiple choice question. It's exactly the same type of question you guys see on tests and quizzes. And basically what it is it requires respondents to select one or more response questions. So, unlike a test or quiz where you're required to select one answer, a multiple choice question on a survey can require the respondent to select only one choice, or they can select multiple choices if given the option. With the multiple choice question, it's closed-end or fixed alternative, which basically means that it has a set of predetermined choices. The market researcher has already identified what the alternatives are that the respondent is going to have to choose from, and they're fixed. And that's what leads to this being a closed-end or fixed alternative question for multiple choice. The next series of questions that you're going to see are all considered scale questions. Scale questions are questions that are fixed alternative, but they have 3 or more choices. So if you look at figure 8.4a question 4 from the sample Wendy survey, this is considered an attitudinal question. So they give you 4 characteristics: the taste of food, cleanliness, price, and the variety of the menu. And they're asking the respondent to rate how important each of those characteristics are on a scale from very important to very unimportant. What they're doing in this question is they're asking their attitudes of the respondent. Which of these characteristics is very important to you and which is very unimportant, and they're using a scale to do so. Figure 8.4a question 5 from the sample Wendy survey is also considered a scale question, but specifically it's labeled as a semantic differential scale question. Okay, this particular question has a 5-point scale, which you can see from the lines that have been identified on the sample question on the screen. And what it does is it gives, on each opposite end, there's 1 or 2 word adjectives that have opposite meanings. So one characteristic that they're focusing on is the taste of food. On the left-hand side of the 5-point scale is tasty. On the right-hand side of the 5-point scale is not tasty. And what they're asking the individual to do is to click the space on the scale that describes how you feel about Wendy's. And they want you to mark an X in the blank line that fits the best. So from most tasty on the left to not tasty at all on the right is how they identify a semantic differential scale. This slide just gives you an example of the next few questions on the Wendy's sample survey, questions 6 through 9, that we will discuss. Figure 8.4b is question 6 on the sample Wendy's survey, and this is a Likert scale question. Okay, again, we're looking at another 5-point scale that the respondent is given to choose from, and the respondent indicates the extent to which he or she agrees or disagrees with a statement. So if you look at the sample question, the statement is, adults like to take their families to fast food restaurants, and the respondent is being asked if they strongly agree, don't know, disagree, or strongly agree. The level of agreeableness is what determines that this question is a Likert scale. Figure 8.4b focuses on question 7 of the sample Wendy's survey, which is a media behavior question. This one basically looks at what types of media or sources of information a respondent will use when they're selecting a fast food restaurant to eat at. So you can see the source of information is clearly media driven: television, newspapers, radio, billboards, flyers, and then they're asked on a scale to rate the importance. Do they feel television is very important, somewhat important, or not at all important to their decision on where to eat out? And they do that for every single source of information, which qualifies this as media behavior. Figure 8.4b, question 8 from the sample Wendy's survey is a usage behavior question. And this question focuses on how frequently does the respondent use or purchase a Wendy's product. So you can see they give any product in the restaurant industry. So they give you the choices of Burger King, McDonald's, and Wendy's, and they're asking, is the respondent eating at any of those once a week or more, 2 to 3 times a month, or once a month or less? It gives Wendy's the opportunity to see how frequently a respondent is purchasing their products and services versus their competitors, Burger King, McDonald's. So which restaurants are they frequenting the most? Which products are they purchasing or using the most? And what we've done here with questions 1 through this question, question 8, is these all inform the marketing researcher about the respondent. So they're looking at their likes and dislikes in eating out, the frequency of eating out at fast food restaurants generally and at Wendy's specifically, and the different sources of information used in making decisions about fast food restaurants. The last question, which is going to be on the next slide, question 9, focuses specifically on the individual that is answering the questions with their demographic information. So figure 8.4b, which is question 9 on the sample Wendy's survey, focuses on the demographic questions. All the questions throughout the survey have asked the respondent to answer based on, how they're using the product, their likes and dislikes of the product, and sources of information for marketing decisions. But this question focuses specifically on the respondent's personal or household characteristics and what they do with this information. So you can see, for example, it's demographic driven. What is the gender? What is their marital status? How many children under the age of 18 live in your home? What is your age? What is your total household individual or household income? So what they're looking at here is they gather information from every respondent so that they're able to analyze the information, but also so they're able to segment the market more appropriately to make sure that they are targeting to make sure they're focusing on the appropriate target market. Figure 8D shows you a graphic that identifies typical problems when wording questions. So it's not just a matter of putting a question down on a piece of paper for the respondent to answer. There are certain pitfalls and issues that researchers have to be aware of. So when it comes to wording questions, it's essential that questions be worded precisely so that the respondents interpret the same question similarly. So they're all, reading and answering the question based on the same information, and that marketing actions developed are consistent with the findings that are based on the data. Um, Types of typical problem questions are things like leading questions, ambiguous questions, unanswerable questions, two questions in one, which can make it confusing, non-exhaustive or non-mutually exclusive questions, which means there's issues with them. So if you take a look at the slide um, and view the problem, the sample question, and then the explanation of the problem, that will give you a better idea for some of the challenges that researchers face when they're wording questions that they have to watch out for. Now that we've completed the questionnaire portion of collecting primary data, now we're going to take a look at some other sources. One of the first source that we're going to take a look at is social media. Electronic technology has revolutionized traditional concepts of interviews and surveys. So kiosks in shopping malls, they use on a touch screen where respondents read questions and they key in their answers. They now have automated telephone interviews where an automated voice asks questions and respondents key replies on a touch tone phone. So it's making it a lot easier and more convenient. And in this, when we talk about this primary data and other sources, there are three other methods of collecting primary data that exist that overlap somewhat with the observational and questionnaire methods. So they kind of can fit into either category depending on how they look at them. And the first is social media. You guys are familiar with social media. Things like Facebook and Twitter, other social media sites, they're changing the way people connect with each other and the way today's products are advertised and sold. So new kinds of marketing research have to reflect these changes. They have to reflect the fact that the more direct connections of advertisers with present and prospective buyers, the speed and volume of customer feedback data is increasing, and there's new marketing metrics and measures of success of social media promotions. An example of this would be Karma Laboratories, Inc., the maker of Carmex lip balm, has a history of accessibility to customers. So the founder, Alfred Wohlberg, personally responded to every customer letter that he received. Today, Karma Labs uses social media programs to help promote their products. They can conduct marketing research using social media listening tools to understand the nature of online lip balm conversations. Carmex also uses these marketing metrics to assess their social media programs for their online products. So one thing they look at is conversation velocity, the number of total Carmex mentions on the internet. They look at share of voice, total Carmex mentions on the internet as a percentage of all major lip balm brands. So they're comparing how many times they're mentioned to how many times other lip balm brands are mentioned. They look at sentiment, the percentage of Carmex share of voice mentions that are positive, neutral, or negative. They also track Facebook likes, the number of Facebook fans, likes, or likers that like a specific Facebook brand page. You know, they compare themselves versus their competitors. These metrics are tracked by electronic search engines that comb the internet for consumers' behaviors and brand mentions. So they set up a program that says, you know, look for all posts or all mentions of Carmex, and then it runs the analysis for them. Marketing researchers want to glean information from these websites to mine the consumer-generated content in real time. So they want to gather this information in real time. However, the sample of individuals from whom this content was gleaned may not be statistically representative of their actual target market. So that's one challenge that they have with using online and social media, is everybody that they're gathering information from might not be the people that are directly in their target market, which could have an impact on their overall analysis. There are other sources that market researchers can also use to gather primary data. And here on this slide, we're going to focus on two: panels and experiments. So a panel is a sample of consumers or stores from which researchers take a series of measurements to see if consumers change their behavior over time. The NPD group, or the online group as is noted on the slide, collects data about consumer purchases, such as apparel, food, and electronics, from its online panel, which consists of nearly 2 million individuals globally. An advantage of panels is that it measures switching behavior from one brand to another over time. So if one consumer buys, you know, Abercrombie and Fitch today, and then 2 years from now they're buying Aeropostale, they're looking at that change in behavior over time. A disadvantage of panels is that the marketing research firm needs to recruit new members continually to replace those who drop out, and the new recruits must match the characteristics of those they replace to keep the panel representative of the marketplace. So finding people can be a challenge. The second type of resource that's on this page is an experiment. An experiment involves obtaining data by manipulating factors under